We at Time Shifters hope that you enjoyed this rare and infamous moment that combines a first-rate disaster with genuine historical significance. But now it's time to take a deep breath as we prepare to temporarily reset you. Get your cars to Mars.
Everyone, this is Christopher and Tom, and this is the Time Shifters Podcast. In this show, we discuss and review film and television, primarily in the sci-fi, fantasy, and horror genres. We are thrilled when we hear from our listeners, and we have many ways for you to contact us. Send an email to timeshifterspodcast@gmail.com or follow the link in the show notes to all our social media accounts. Now, let's get Tom in on the show and start this thing. Tom, how you doing?
Oh, I am just peachy. How are you doing?
Feeling about the same. I feel like I hear an undercurrent in your peachiness, and I feel it too.
Yeah, we don't have to get into quite all of that, but
no, we will.
The world's a shaky place, and we're trying to eke out what little joy we can.
Exactly, and that's why Time Shifters will continue because we need the outlet.
It's at a minimum, it's therapy for us. And you're all along for the ride.
Been up to anything interesting?
Not too much. I mean, it's mostly work. It's the seasonal change too, so particularly in Maryland, it's nothing like hardcore winter in the morning followed by deep summer in the afternoon. So seriously, we have 40-degree shifts all day, so that gets a little old. But yeah, it's nice to get outside.
We've been feeling a little bit of the same here in Ohio. Yes, it's been in the 30s when I leave for work and almost 80, 75, 80 degrees when I go home. So it's very difficult to figure out how to dress for the day. Layers. You dress in layers.
And it's had part of my ongoing therapy from the joy of our lives these days is to pour my heart and soul into getting back into shape. So at a minimum, I work out twice a day. Now that the weather is shifting, we're trying to get a little more outdoor running in, so we have to jockey our times accordingly.
Nice, yes. I've been able to get out and do some walking. I'm looking forward, now that we have an extra hour of daylight, thanks to the daylight savings ending or starting or whichever direction it is. Does anyone really know anymore? Anyway, we have an extra hour of daylight in the evening, and I'm looking forward to that extending a little further so I can actually have time to get my bike out to the bike trails.
Yeah, I even had a thought earlier this week, especially after the time change, was with all the draconian crap that's happening these days, couldn't turning that off been one of them?
Yeah, well, could we stop it now? Because I like having an extra hour. I like that extra daylight.
Yeah, right. And it's so murder that it happens on the weekend. Can't we do this on a Wednesday?
What was it I saw? Why do we, I guess as far as daylight savings, springing forward, is like, why do we do it in the middle of the weekend? Why don't we do it on Friday at 4 o'clock?
Right? Yeah, exactly. Let's do it at 4 o'clock so that it's now 5, time to go.
Great.
Start the weekend. We're in it. I'm all for that. That would have been amazing. I can even settle for a Monday going into the Tuesday. It already sucks, but just do that then. Don't ruin my weekend over this.
Yeah, no kidding. We have finished the Mod Squad.
Woohoo!
Finally, I kind of checked out on it almost like a season and a half ago, even more than that, when I started realizing how often they recycle scripts. It was on. I listened to it, sort of. I did it kind of the second screen watch sort of thing, where I'm sitting there playing on my phone and the TV's on. Continuing Babylon 5. Oh, Revelation on Babylon 5.
Yes.
Cobra Bays. They're called Cobra Bays because they look like cobras, Tom.
Wow.
I only just realized that on this watch through.
Wow. Well, that's even news to me, but I mean,
Really? Oh, okay.
yeah, I hadn't actually put any thought into that at all.
It just occurred to me as I was watching it. I've always wondered, why do they call them Cobra Bays? Because it's Star Furies and
Right.
fighters, all this stuff, and
But it's shaped like the hood of a cobra.
Yeah, they just say Delta Wing, coming with Cobra Bays, and then I sat there and I'm watching it going around, and I'm like, it looks like a cobra. They never say it.
Right.
No one points it out. It's just obvious if you look at it. Yeah. Mind blown. Didn't know.
All right, now I'll have something new to check out the next time I try another round of Babylon 5 sometime, because I got cut off the last time I tried to watch.
That's a weird thing. I don't know if I mentioned it on the show. It said it was going to leave Prime. It didn't leave Prime.
But I left Prime, so.
Oh, there you go. Well, fortunately, it's on Tubi, so.
Well, there you go. There's where I could pick it back up. Yeah, the last time I tried to do it, it was on Max, and
Yeah.
And by the time I was getting deep into the Shadow War, it went away. So.
Yeah, I think the same thing happened to me when it was on Max. I was kind of getting into it, and then I went to go watch it again, and where'd it go?
Well, yeah. Plus, I ended at the cliffhanger kind of spot because Sheridan had jumped into the pit.
Oh, right, yeah.
On whatever Doom planet.
Zaha Doom.
Doom, yeah. He had jumped into that, and then, the next time I want to watch, it's gone. God, it's not right. That's not where you let down.
I've actually not watched all that much in the way of film or anything for a change. I've actually been reading a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
I picked up a book from the library. I did one of these things. We had a local library just move into some new digs, so I thought, I'll go in and kind of check it out, see what it is. And while I was there, I was kind of poking around and looking on the new to them list, or shelf, I should say.
Yeah.
I picked up a little sci-fi novel. This thing's called Galaxy Raiders 1 Abyss. It's the first in a new series from author Ian Douglas, which is a pseudonym for William H. Keith, who has written a lot of military-based sci-fi sort of novels and everything.
Okay.
I'm reading it. I can't say I am going to be drawn to continue this series. I can tell I'm only maybe a third of the way into this book, and I find it really derivative of everything.
Wow.
There are things in this book where it's like, this is a lot like Star Trek. This is like Star Wars. That's like Stargate. That's like The Expanse. That's almost Doctor Who. I mean, I just recognize so much from so many other franchises kind of weaved together. Maybe it's original in the fact that it's all in one book, but it's a little, it just kind of takes me out of it a little bit when you recognize things that that's from this series. There's even a character briefly named Kevin O'Reilly. I'm like, as in Take Me Home Kathleen Kevin O'Reilly?
Wow, a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah.
It's interesting you brought up reading, of all things, and I am notorious for not reading, not because I have anything against it, because it's just so passive for me. It puts me in a calm, and I usually start to fall asleep. So
Yeah, exactly.
But I actually started reading a book myself. And mine is a John Grisham book, but it's not a novel.
Okay.
John Grisham and another gentleman named Jim Klosky. Not sure if I'm saying that right. Anyway, they paired up to do a book called Framed. And Framed is a collection of stories of people who were wrongfully accused and went to jail for a variety of things, and they're all true stories.
Oh, interesting.
And,
okay. Getting into the true crime a little bit.
In this case, it's where the crime is the justice system itself.
Right. Yeah, no, understood.
Yeah, so, starting off with the first story alone was just kind of like, wow, okay, yeah, you could see how things just go sideways very quickly, and somebody completely, totally, 100% innocent ends up going to jail for long periods of time for things they didn't do because of lazy police work and people just looking to clear caseloads without actually doing due diligence. Yeah, it's just... It's fascinating read, but it's disgusting to read, too.
Oh, I imagine that would be you get done reading a chapter and you'd be angry. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because occasionally I do visit true crime stuff, like in the documentaries and all that. And I was fascinated with one called, like, the Fox Hollow Murders, which was a fairly insidious thing going on in Hamilton County, Indiana, which I wasn't aware of, but... This gentleman who he had to have murdered something in the score of 60 plus people.
Oh,
yeah, and the bones of his victims are just strewn all in the backwoods of his property, and it's all a horrible, awful story. But it's funny. I started reading the book, and then I watched some of this, and I start catching the same things happening in the documentary that are wrong in the book. So you start catching people giving accounts of things where they're talking about their feelings, but they themselves were not witness to anything. And literally in that book, Framed, it talks about people saying, oh, well, I think he thinks this. I don't know that he's actually done anything, but they'll hang their hat on one random person giving this little thing. So I'm watching a documentary where somebody starts talking that way, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I can't. It takes all of the, rightfully so, it takes the fun out of the documentary because you're like, everything all of you are saying is bullshit. This is just, you're not even giving me facts about this case. You're giving me somebody's opinions and feelings, and I'm like, that's not how you tell a story.
Yeah, that fits someone else's narrative, so suddenly it becomes the basis of their argument, right?
Yeah, so honestly, and the documentary itself was fine. When you get to the actual factual stuff and the interviews with people that might actually be involved, but they keep putting in this fluff filler piece, and since it drew itself out into like 4 episodes or something, I'm like, you could have probably gotten this done in one.
Gotcha.
Might have been an hour and a half if you had just done a proper documentary with facts and actual circumstances that happened. So yeah, there was a bit of that, but it's funny how once you get one perspective, it'll start impacting others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is why you should go read.
Absolutely, but I think I'll stick to science fiction and fantasy. Yeah.
That's a little lighter fare.
It's lighter fare. I need the escapism. There's already enough things that make me angry going on in the real world.
Right.
Yeah, so that's all I've been up to. If you haven't been anything else, I think we'll probably just move right along.
Yes.
And we were pretty lengthy in our last episode, so maybe we'll be able to trim it down a little bit this time.
Good shot of that anyway, but we can get to the heart of this.
We can try. Let's take a break. We'll listen to a promo for another podcast, and then we'll continue our discussion on the Martian Chronicles.
Sci-Fi TV. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Brent Barrett.
I'm Kevin Batchelder.
I'm Wendy Hembrock.
The Viewer's Guide to Genre Television.
Welcome everyone to a special supernatural-focused bonus
Hello everyone,
show.
and welcome to the Fae Files,
A family of podcasts for the genre-loving television viewer.
Welcome to Saturday B Movie Reel.
Hi everyone, welcome to the study
Welcome
group.
to the top genre characters of all time countdown.
And tonight we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones Season 3.
Find us at tuningintoscifitv.com.
The Earth is dead. But are there people still alive? Caverns miles deep could shelter life from the terrible blast. This is Wilder's hope as he races to his brother's rescue. But what will survival mean now? On Earth or on Mars?
Part 3 of the Martian Chronicles is titled The Martians. Picking up sometime after the events of Part 2, the Earth has been destroyed and only a handful of people remain on Mars, having mostly evacuated just prior to the final conflict on Earth. Two main stories fill out the time of the third and final installment of the miniseries. We meet Benjamin Driscoll, the lone inhabitant of the town of New Texas. Living out a meager and lonely life, he wanders through the remains of the town, thinking he is the last person left on the planet. One day he hears what sounds like a phone ringing. When another phone rings, he only just misses the call as he breaks into the home. Realizing he may not be alone, he begins calling every number in the book, hoping to find companionship. We also meet a retired engineer, Peter Hathaway, who moved to Mars with his wife and teen daughter. When Hathaway manages to attract the attention of a passing rocket carrying Wilder and Father Stone, they land near his home and Wilder is reunited with his old friend and his family. Wilder suspects that things are not as they seem, as Hathaway's wife Alice looks exactly as she did when he first met her at the couple's wedding, and the daughter claims to be the same 14-year-old girl Wilder met when they first immigrated to the planet. Both of these stories are intertwined with Wilder looking for survivors on Earth and Mars, and him finally having a long-wished-for encounter with a Martian. Adding to the cast this time around are Christopher Connolly as Ben Driscoll, Bernadette Peters as Genevieve Seltzer, and Barry Morris as Peter Hathaway. This story has some really big issues with the timeline and the continuity of the first two parts. And it's really bizarre considering that these are all part of the same miniseries. I could excuse it if it was something like a long-running series and maybe season 3 contradicts something that happened in season 1. But there's things in here that go against something that happened just 3 hours ago. Or in the case of the miniseries as it aired 2 days ago.
Well, yeah, and I had to take issue almost right away because we kind of open with Wilder going back to Earth. Earth has been slagged. It's nuclear war, but he manages to show up in essentially their command center. Everything's intact, and what they portray on the video playback that he watches in the fully intact location suggests it's more of the proverbial neutron bomb solution that would have just wiped out people and not buildings and such. But that's not what we watched. It's not, I mean, all of the imagery that they showed of Earth is that it's all but molten at this stage. Mm-hmm. So where did he go? So I'm immediately put off because we are left with essentially Earth on fire at the end of the last one. And he shows up in a building on Earth completely untouched. I'm like, that doesn't jive.
Yeah, unless you make up some excuse that it was a mix between atomic and neutron warfare. But you're right. If you're watching the planet go from green and blue to orange and red on your telescope,
yeah,
Yeah, that pretty much suggests that the entire world has been engulfed in nuclear fire. There is no, here and there, and in some places there was neutron bombs and it doesn't.
I cry
work.
foul. It just didn't. It didn't feel right. It set me off right out of the gate. I'm like, because I was so deeply looking forward to this, and I'm like, what? So, already not off to a good start.
Yeah, I feel like they were just bound and determined to make this a 3-night event.
Yeah.
And everything that takes place in this third part, well, 90% of it anyway, it feels as if it was just padding to get that third night.
Kinda, yeah. And it undoes some of the greatness that happened before. And we were already giving it lots of leeway based on the story is from the 50s. So Mars information is a little lax. But I mean, it starts because we already saw in the second episode how life on Mars is a little unhinged compared to the realities of trying to pull off what they suggested they pulled off. And then it just gets completely disconnected by the time you get to the end of this. It's just the stuff that even what's left for the survivors on Mars. And I'm going to pause there for a second because supposedly there's this giant evacuation from Mars back to Earth. To what? What happened to all the people that left? Since Wilder has a ship that apparently not only can travel from Earth to Mars and back to Earth again and back to Mars again with whatever non-resources he has access to, but didn't the people that started to make their way to Earth, didn't they turn around, hightail, and come back?
Yeah, that kind of shows a big flaw in the timeline with even the second part.
Yes,
because there's the talk of though there's war, they're canceling the colony.
Yep.
But then you got Wilder going around like, well, we're all evacuating. Be in town tomorrow morning. You think, okay, that's when it's going to happen, but the Earth is destroyed that night.
Right.
So everyone left. Yeah, so everyone packed up and left within like an hour,
right,
of getting the news. And why would you go back? That's the problem I actually had with the second part. It really highlights in this one is, the Earth is going to go to war. Why would you want to go back?
Right.
Why wouldn't you stay and go, I'll take my chances here. I may not live, but I'm going to live a hell of a lot longer than I will at home.
Well, and it calls into question. So, Parkhill saw the end of Earth. He didn't go chasing after his friend Wilder to go call off the plans to leave. There's
right.
nothing to go back to. Seriously, lots of stuff just don't add up immediately in this third one that were already falling apart in the second one.
And maybe that's probably an issue even with the original Chronicles, is the fact that it is a bunch of series of unconnected short stories that have been forced together into trying to be a continuing narrative.
Yeah, and that's where this gets hard. The through line unravels pretty quickly.
Yeah. So the first story that we see is with Ben Driscoll.
Yeah.
And he's in New Texas. He's by himself. He was supposedly in the mountains, didn't know about the evacuation.
Right.
Probably saw a whole bunch of rockets going up in the air and wondered what was that.
Yeah. Or hey.
So yeah, he's been by himself for a while. Then the phone's ringing, and he finally gets in contact with someone. And this is again being based on the 1950s and everything.
Right.
There's an air of not really, I mean, him sitting there and going, oh, if it's a woman, where would she be? Oh, a beauty parlor. Like,
yeah, no, there's a touch of misogyny in there and all that. Yeah. But hey, there's all sorts of laughable moments while we're watching Driscoll. I mean, for God's sakes, there's white pages on Mars.
Well, and again, it's another issue, and you even brought it up when we got into the second part, is how normal everything is within a year's or two time.
Yeah.
From the time that this colony and these 12 towns that are supposedly set up, and everything's so normal to the fact that there's a telephone directory, there's a telephone service.
Right.
There's white pages and yellow pages for everyone on Mars. There's beauty parlors and
there's shops. There's mannequins in windows. There's
fancy restaurants.
Yeah, if that's what's qualified as fancy. the restaurant. I started openly laughing. I'm like, dude, it's like the lounge out of the Blues Brothers, where the the guys were playing, where the piano was covered in fur. I'm like, this is the tackiest damn place.
Yeah, again, I feel like they should have been risky enough to have different people telling this story. They wanted Rock Hudson to be in all three parts, right, but it doesn't work. You needed decades in between.
Yes.
Really, each one of these stories.
Well, and to that point, there's one part where I swear to God, Roddy McDowall's in the third part, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I could have swore he mentioned the year 2018.
No.
No?
No.
Then I misheard him or something, because it sounded like they were trying to concede that a couple decades had gone by.
No, the only thing that sets the time in this is that story with Hathaway, where Wilder is talking with Stone and telling him, like, well, they supposedly died in the year 2000.
Yeah.
And what you might have misheard is Stone say, that was 7 years ago.
Yeah, maybe.
So that sets this in 2007.
Yeah. I don't know. I swore I heard it, but let's get back to the Ben Driscoll story.
Okay, yes. Yeah, sorry.
Aside from the tacky elements and the misogyny and all of that, and tearing apart all of the stuff that really shouldn't be on a Mars that they just colonized in the past couple years.
Yes.
Take all of that out. We're telling a Last Man on Earth style story. The things that a man on his own might think and worry about. And I'm actually going to give it way more credit because of this, because it told it in a very goofy way. I texted you literally while I was watching it that the character Bernadette Peters plays, this Genevieve, she's not somebody you wanted in your life when the world was all together. So if she's all you got going into the apocalypse, it makes a solid case for remaining single. So, and I think that was, you kind of have to flesh it out, because the way they tell the story, it is fairly clunky in its execution. But the notion that a desperate man seeking any kind of connection finds a connection not worth having, and then sees the value in his integrity to be alone rather than to slip into this vapid environment that the one other person on the planet can give him. And I kind of liked that. It was told really badly, but the sentiment was still there.
No, absolutely. I did like the fact that he does come to that realization and doesn't do the, well, maybe someday she'll come around.
Right. Yeah, no, integrity actually kicks in pretty early. I mean, he gave it a shot. He gave it the evening. And I mean, seriously, they couldn't have written a more vapid character. And she did a great job playing it. I won't argue that, but it was annoying to watch because it was a very one-dimensional character, and she was cheesing it up big.
I'm not sure why Genevieve ever went to Mars.
Right? Who talked her into that?
She must have been a showgirl or an employee, something, the new Mars casino or whatever this world had. She had to have been dragged there. Given
the nature of who she is, whichever sugar daddy she was with at the time is the one that went to Mars, and she went with. And he managed to get on the ship and get out. She did not, and I'm thinking he ran to that ship.
Well, supposedly they wouldn't let her take all her things.
Right.
That's suddenly weight and material objects matter in space travel.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that all of that stuff managed to get to the planet in the first place. Because I'm sorry, they weren't making cocktail dresses on Mars. From what precisely?
Yeah.
At any rate, no. She did play it up very well. I mean, she was irritating right out of the gate, right to the end. But it became hard to watch her after a while because you're like, you can't possibly be this absolutely awful. And if you're going to do a one-dimensional character, either go all in, and they did.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, she took it right to the edge and stepped off.
Yeah, because she saw something shiny on the other side, because that was the nature of this person. And the fact that she is a pretty young woman and he is alone, and the fact that she is that awful, she was awful enough that there was no hanging your hat on it. He wasn't going to give it a shot. He had to leave. He didn't care how long and how far he went. It wasn't going to be in this space with her any longer.
And I like that Ben Driscoll is written as a character that, despite his desperation and everything, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
If this were done today, I think there would be a darker edge to him. Someone would get a hold of this, and he would be I'm not taking no for an answer sort.
For a minute there, I thought that's where they were going, because when he was making cocktails and he put a little extra something in hers, they weren't making it clear what it was. It looked like he was just making her alcoholic beverage more alcoholic.
Oh yes, no, he was definitely not skimping on the alcohol.
Right, but because of when she got it and she tasted it and she just said, "Oh, this is too bitter." He might have been trying to give her a little bit more alcohol, but I don't think it was quite as malicious in the end as it could have been. Today, that had gone away different.
No, absolutely. No, I think it was just him trying to loosen her up a little bit. He was absolutely hoping for what exactly we think he was hoping for.
Oh, yeah, no, he's a horn
and he was
dog
trying to
on the
maybe
move.
just help that along.
Right.
But yes, I am thinking of Walking Dead level of the not our heroes, but our the villains they always came across.
Yeah.
Kind of mentality that could have transpired. And in this, he's like, nope, I'm the good guy. She's gonna shut the door. I'm not gonna bust the door in. I'm just gonna leave town.
No,
there was that really nice looking blonde mannequin I passed.
Well, she had more personality.
Yeah, very much.
But no, I liked that there was a bit of a high road in this. I do like that it was basically pointing out what what's your line, and do you have one? And they were pointing out that, yes, no, even in solitude is preferable than being in a relationship you have no desire to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice. And when we get into the next part of the story, you even get a little bit more with Driscoll.
Yeah, yes, you do. Yeah, the next story is about Peter Hathaway, played by Barry Morris. Sci-fi fans might remember Barry Morris from like the first season of Space 1999.
Yep.
He's, of course, been in several other things, probably a little bit more on the other side of the pond and maybe some theater and whatever. I'll admit I know him best from Space 1999 and a film or two here and there that I've caught him in.
Interestingly enough, he was in Walking Dead.
Barry Morris was in The Walking Dead?
Yep, no, he had a part.
No kidding.
Yep. 2 episodes, but he was in it.
Oh, interesting. I don't remember that at all.
It was 2001. It's been a minute.
It's been a while, I guess. I forget how long ago that thing started.
Yeah.
This is a story that on its own, I kind of like the idea of.
Yeah.
But it's another story that fit into this universe. I don't think it really works.
Yeah, no, it was kind of wedged in there. If anything, the only saving grace for it being there is it ties up the thread that they start with the Driscoll character. Almost all the parts with him, with Barry's character, you could probably do without. Mm-hmm. Although this is another one where you get into just the oddities of this particular version of trying to be on Mars and all that. Like, he's paying attention for ships coming. He's looking for save. Everybody's left. He didn't get to go. So he's trying to make the best of it. This is why I think there was a time. I'm getting more of the sense of the time. I guess it's what you were saying, the 7 years, but I wasn't really tying into when did he get to Mars versus the rest of all of this. But at any rate, clearly he's been there a long time. And he's been there a long time even while the ship's left. So he's really trying to wait for somebody to come back and save him. But the part that I'm getting to is just when Wilder comes back in a ship and Hathaway fires off all of his laser light show to get the attention. Not only does Wilder land the ship, I'll give him fine. He went back to where they landed ships. That's fine. But then he's got his little flying thing, and he's got the priest with him. Why, we do not know. But even when he goes to the homestead where the Hathaways are, he lands nowhere near them at all. I'm like, I just kept going. You see the ship go by the house, and he keeps going into the hills, and you're like, where are you going? Like, aren't you trying to see them?
I guess the mountains were in the way. There's no good landing spot any closer. I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to put anything on it to make that make sense, but it didn't. It really didn't.
No, the timeline with the Hathaways do not work because I looked it up and double checked. The third expedition to Mars, the only successful one with Wilder and Parkhill.
Yeah.
They didn't even reach Mars until 2001.
Right.
And the colonization fleet didn't arrive until February of 2004.
Right.
So Hathaway's wife and daughter and the Hathaway family couldn't have been on Mars in 2000 when supposedly his wife and daughter died of a mysterious virus.
Right.
So how? Why? Why did no one working on this notice that these discrepancies. What was Matheson thinking when he wrote the screenplay for this? Because you couldn't just flip back a few chapters and go, wait a minute, what year did I say? Okay, let me scratch that out and put that and fix this.
Right? Yeah. No, you didn't have to leave it that bad, but they did, and yeah. That part bugged me. The other parts bugged me. And then where they went with the Hathaway story, period.
Yes, that right off the bat, it bothered me. You've already established characters in this story that could assume the appearance of your loved ones.
Yeah.
This story with the Hathaways, Wilder and Stone even talk amongst themselves. Wilder's thinking the same thing we are.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
These are Martians.
His wife and daughter are Martians.
Yeah.
No. Again, technology has made a massive leap on Mars.
Insanely massive leap.
And Hathaway has managed to devise androids.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
why?
And I felt completely let down by that, because there would have been a nice little symmetry in this story if they were Martians. If we're suggesting that most of the Martian population died as a result of diseases we brought to Mars, the notion that perhaps maybe a few humans succumbed to a Martian virus that we wouldn't have been acclimated to, and that perhaps a pair of Martians felt bad for the fact that this had happened and assumed the role of his wife and daughter to ease him in his time, because that seemed to be kind of how they operated from all the other times we watched in the movie. Like, it would have made more sense, and it would have had a nice little... It just would have fit right. It would have felt right. And that's not what we got. And you introduced something that should have been mind-blowing. The sheer concept, especially the conversation that Wilder and the priest have about whether or not they take these creations with them, knowing that they only know this. That changing their environment would be essentially a total upheaval of their entire programming / life.
Yes and no, because it's so strange. They know what they are, which was an interesting angle.
Right.
That when things they know that they are creations, that they aren't real humans.
Yeah.
They were built by Hathaway, and saying, well, he didn't program us to be sad because he didn't want us to ever be that way. And
right.
So, yeah, they would have, and I think this is very much a Bradbury angle on the whole idea that they would just sit there and wait and just do whatever it is they do, knit, play cribbage, whatever, until they fell apart or their parts wore down.
Yeah.
That I get. It's still a very great Bradbury idea.
Right, but it needed to be an idea unto its own in another story.
Yeah. It doesn't work, at least not into the timeline that has been established.
No, but this is where I'll at least put the bow on the Driscoll thing. After everybody has left, Hathaway has died. The two automatons are left on their own because Wilder and the priest have decided it's better to just leave them behind than incorporate them into whatever the future for humanity looks like. And then Driscoll comes along. And where he was looking for one thing before and got a vapid, unnecessary environment that he knew that was not for him. When he comes across these two automatons and they are just very welcoming, and they just want to create a family of sorts. That is the relationship he was looking for all along, and now he got it. It, again, clunky as hell to get there, but it was at least a nice little bow on his story. He gets kind of a happy ending. He gets to be with people that's what he was looking for in the first place.
I hope it's a happy ending for Driscoll's sake. I don't know. How long till he discovers? Will they tell him that they're androids? Will he find out?
Will he care?
Well, yeah. Will it matter?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all kinds of different directions that story could take from that moment forward. But we pretty much ended with him going, look, I'm just been traveling a long time. You don't have to put yourselves out. I'd just like to maybe sit and have a cup of coffee and talk for a little bit. And that's where, oh no, you're more than welcome to stay. And that's where the story ends.
See, I'm taking
honestly,
this...
I could see this story also go in a direction where they dote on Driscoll to the point where he's like, nope, I'm out.
Right, and well, that's when you get into an ongoing story of the last man on Earth kind of thing. The guy that's forced to wander forever looking for the thing he may never find. And that would be a story unto itself that would be worth telling. But I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit more love because it's got more of an Aesop fable kind of feel to it. It's just a nice little tight little bundle. We're gonna put out our little moral in all of this, which is strive for more than what you think you want. What you think you want and what you need are often two different things, and that was kind of what I took away from all of this. He tried to get what he wanted. I think he got what he needed. End of story. Don't carry it on further. And they weren't going to anyway. So, like I said, I'm putting lipstick on the pig here.
Well, as I said, these stories were intertwined with Wilder kind of traveling Mars. He reunites with Parkhill, learns about the deed that the Martians gave Parkhill. But as Parkhill says, what's half of nothing? And I wish they had set up something to give us some indication that there was more than only a half dozen people left on Mars.
Yeah, and now you're starting to venture into the territory that ultimately pisses me off about the whole endeavor. Because we're getting into the Wilder wrap-up story. Mm-hmm. Like you said, he finds out about the deed. He starts to read into that. He's taking a little bit more of it. He's jealous that Parkhill actually had encounters with Martians, and then on top of it managed to kill. Parkhill only claims one. It was more.
Oh yeah,
but he's jealous of this, but he finds a little nugget in all of this, and strikes out to go find at least the last place he thinks he would find the Martian. And then this is where he just gets weird. And I hate that it got as weird as it got because I also like the scene. But yeah, no, he wanders to one of the Martian cities, and he gets to encounter a Martian who is or isn't there. Mm-hmm. They start bringing time into this, but since we haven't really injected time into the entirety of the story prior, it's hard to see how it fits at this stage, because the Martian is essentially claiming to be probably from the future of the planet, or perhaps the past of the planet.
Don't you see this city?
I see the ruins of a city, dead over 1,000 years.
1,000 years? I live here.
Your city's dead.
It's alive. Can't you see the carnival lights, the boats, the women? Can't you see them?
No,
You don't see the city and the ocean beyond?
there hasn't been an ocean there for over 40 centuries.
This can mean only one thing. It has to do with time. You're a figment of the past.
You are from the past.
What year is it?
2007.
That means nothing to me. To me, it is the year 4462853 SEC. And you are long dead.
But I can feel my heartbeat. Feel? No, never mind. I can feel my own flesh.
And so do I.
And I was hoping, finally,
Finally, what?
that I could speak to a Martian. Ask him
Oh,
questions.
here I am. Speak to me. Ask. I'll tell you anything you want to know about my world.
Your world is dead,
It's your world that is dead.
perhaps. Perhaps you're right.
How can you prove you're from the future? How do you know these ruins that you see were not the ruins of your own civilization 100 centuries from now? You cannot know.
You're right. I cannot.
What does it matter anyway? Of what importance is it who is past and who is future? What follows will follow, now or in 10,000 years. All that matters is, you see your world, and I see mine.
And that whole that part of the conversation, it's just like, what are we talking about? Why? We've seen Martians on the planet at the same time as the humans. Why are you now out disjointed from time? And then how are you having this conversation? Or why are you having this conversation? So none of that, they don't really glue any of that together. It's just there, and it sounds like a wild hair Ray had, but he didn't flesh it out, so that it just got stuck in there. I don't know.
I think it's a brilliant scene.
It is.
And again, I really like it, but yes, I feel like it was written in a kind of hurried manner to finish the book because it was due at the publishers.
Kind of.
Yes, it doesn't quite fit into the rest of the narrative that we've had in this story. It almost would have fit better in the beginning versus the end.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and if had you managed to make somehow Spender part of it all, because he kept flashing back on all the stuff related to Spender and all that, but if you take out the first part of the conversation where we have this out of time kind of conversation, not to mention it pulls in some of the worst effects that they had.
God, the blue screen on this is atrocious.
Yeah, no, like they don't look like they're in the same. It's terrible, and they could have just avoided it altogether. Just don't touch each other. Just suggest you're out of time or create a mist or something. I don't care, but do something else. You can still go low budget and not ruin it quite as much as you did.
They have done what they tried to do in this. They have done in film and television and other things better.
Gilligan's Island pulled off that effect better than they did in this. So yeah, and that was a good 10, 15 years before. So they had some chance to actually get this right. But all that aside, if you take the first 2-3 minutes out of the Martian Wilder conversation out, just chuck it and get into the heart of the conversation that they actually have. Where I want to put it, some of what the Martian actually says on a poster or something. I actually need to get this out into the world in general, because Wilder really at his heart wants to get into how did you live? What did you do? How did your society work? He really just wants to know.
Yep. What's the secret to life on Mars?
And what's the secret to life on Mars? And when the Martian comes back with, there isn't a secret.
Secret? There is no secret. Anyone with eyes can see the way to live.
How?
By watching life, observing nature and cooperating with it. Making common cause with the process of existence.
How?
By living life for itself, don't you see? Deriving pleasure from the gift of pure being.
The gift of pure being.
Life is its own answer. Accept it and enjoy it day by day. Live as well as possible. Expect no more. Destroy nothing. Humble nothing. Look for fault in nothing. Leave unsullied and untouched all that is beautiful.
The secret is live life for life's sake. Learn to commune with your own environment. Don't destroy, create. He's running through this entire soliloquy, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, this is what people need to know. This is how the world should work. And I'm loving that Wilder is digging every moment of this, and he's having his epiphany. And then we end this scene, and that's exactly where the end of the film should have been. The story should have ended at the Martian telling him how life should work. And Wilder coming to that, and then we ruin it.
Really, you think so?
I 1,000% think so. It carries on too long and makes not a whole lot of sense. I get what they were trying to do. But again, because, and you already brought it up, the whole, we don't really have a sense of how many people are actually on Mars. And from the way that the film kind of does it, it's not a lot.
No, if we follow only the people that we've seen, we have got, let's see, 4 Wilder family members.
Yeah.
Parkhill and his wife, who is not seen in this story. She went to bed and hasn't gotten up.
Right.
We got Genevieve off somewhere.
Yeah.
Driscoll.
Yeah. The 2 robots.
And 2, well, I'm thinking actual people that can...
Oh, I know, that can procreate.
Procreate and continue the species.
And there's a priest.
Oh, right, and Father Stone.
Right. Because he's busy giving sermons to no one.
Right.
Wilder mentions that.
So we have got 9 people that we know of left on Mars.
Which is why I hate the final scene. I get what they were going for, but I hate it because of it. We've just... Go ahead.
I should point out 9 people left on Mars. 1, 2, 3, 4... Okay, you can maybe say that Mrs. Wilder and Mrs. Parkhill are still at the age where they could carry children. Genevieve is probably for sure.
Yeah.
The 2 kids are only 11, 12-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a really good gene pool there.
No, which is where... keep in mind, the entire colony was still being supplied by Earth. Granted, we've seen some shrubbery and stuff, but Mars is still pretty much, for the most part, desolate. It's got water, according to this story. It has some greenery, just minor at best. No animal life that's been identified in any way, shape, or form. So, prospects of life, even aside from procreation, just living out the month is going to be a little tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, all you can do is keep scavenging what's left of the colony in general until it wears out. So, you have just learned the secret of living on Mars. The living life, period. It doesn't have to be Mars. It's literally, this is how you should be. You've learned that. So Wilder's going to take the family camping and start over as the Martians. To what end?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the part that hurts. I get what they were going for, the whole notion. We're going to start anew. We're going to learn from our mistakes. We're going to learn from what I just learned from the Martians. That's fantastic. It's too little too late. It's just done.
Yeah, because it kind of ruins the idea that what they tried to explain or tried to, like, infer with his conversation with the Martian, that perhaps this is all... the ruins they see aren't the ruins that they think, that maybe the Martians are really the future of the humans.
Yeah.
But yeah, what humans?
I don't see the thread that gets you there.
The Wilder children are the new Adam and Eve?
Yeah, and that gets into some uncomfortable territory.
Very much.
But yeah, they didn't... And again, it's been forever since I've read the book. Maybe there's a little bit more there that because low-budget film, we didn't have money for all the extras we would need that would be required to even give some sense that maybe this colony has a shot of living beyond the next couple weeks. But all that said, yeah, because this is what we're left with, you're supposed to be getting this profound moment, but logic dictates that this is all for naught. Which makes it kind of depressing.
There should have at least been some effort in the story that Wilder was sending out some signal.
Yeah.
To anyone left on Mars, come to follow the signal, come to this place.
They had made mention of the possibility of some humans still on Earth in remote places.
Yes, exactly. Sending signal to Earth, any survivors, if you somehow magically have access to a spaceship.
Well, his rocket gets around the immediate...
Yeah, exactly. Apparently going to space is the same as going to get milk at the grocery
really
in this world. So, yeah, come to Mars, we're going to start anew. Would it have killed him to, make up a small field by a canal to make it at least look like they're growing something?
Yeah, have a farm. Maybe they've brought some livestock on one of those rockets. They carry everything else. Why not?
Right. Yeah, they could have had a cow or two.
Right. Just seriously, something to suggest that this didn't just... You're about to have a camp out, and you could equally suggest they're about to go into the tent, and he's going to somehow set off something that's going to carbon monoxide poison them all in their sleep, because this is done. We're over. It's just time now. Yeah, so that's why that final scene just kind of really falls flat for me. I could have ended on the profound statement and gone, oh, there's some hope. I won't have to worry about the logistics, but because he does what he does, and it's so remote, it's so barren, and they're the only four that we see in any of this, it just feels like it's lost.
I don't think I can agree with you, because I think that same thought would still occur to me. Even you could have Wilder going, oh, you're so right, and have that epiphany and everything, and you could roll credits, but there'd still be like, well, so what?
Well, and that's, I guess, where we're ultimately landing, because that's the scene where they go to the ruins and they're camping and all that, and he's trying to lay out a groundwork for hope for them. But either way, whether it's ending at that or ending with this third one kind of just tanked it.
Mm-hmm. It's so disappointing. I had so much fun going back and listening to our conversations over the first two stories. I think they were some of the best conversations that we've had on the show. Yeah. There is so much in here to pull from and so much to talk about. And to watch this third part, it just lands with such a hollow thud.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe this is why this is not a revered telling of a classic novel. Why it didn't carry on, why you can only find it either on a DVD or a VHS set. Yeah, because I think it does not stick the landing. It set up so much good and just fell apart at the end.
Yeah, it's so disappointing. I had so much fun watching these first two parts. They're so interesting, and that even when the stories are like a little shallow on their surface, you're thinking, oh no, just scratch a little bit, and there's so much more going on here.
Yeah, no, so I was just disappointed in this, and I felt terrible for it too, because I went with so much anticipation.
Yeah, in another story, I think the final scene of Wilder, taking his family to the ruins, and it's like telling his kids, "You're going to see Martians."
Yeah.
Where are they? You'll see. Hang on, and then he takes them to the dock and has them look at the reflection. There's the Martians. I love that.
I did, but it was telegraphed like crazy. I didn't have to read the book to know that that's what he was doing.
Well, sure, absolutely, but I still like that. It's just at the end of this hour and a half, as you said, it's just there's too much. They didn't do enough into the build-up for you to think, whoopee?
I have too much logic and knowledge of how other things work to go into this one and go, I see how you get to a good place from here. I'm like, no, human race is over. It completely 1,000% done. Actually, and I'm having this thought literally in the moment, but it only drags it down a little bit more for me, is this sets up the failure that already begins with humanity to begin with. If Wilder is the only one that knows and has this epiphany of how life should work, of how survival could both be done but also result in a better place for humankind, but he's the only one that knows that, it's the Christ story all over again. Mm-hmm. It's one man in the wilderness trying to convince a population that have no idea what you're talking about to do things a better way. It's just rinse and repeat. And that doesn't give me a whole lot of hope either. So the blue orbs were better for that version than what just happened with Wilder and the Martian. So I'm depressing myself further.
Like we said, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, because there's a
shame.
Lot of great themes in here. There's a lot of good allegory. You could take a lot away, and we did. We found more than I thought would we even be there to find, and then this let us down.
No, absolutely. I did want to mention, because I've been meaning to mention it in our first two conversations, and we've even talked about it at length as far as the set design and everything of, did I say it's set design? What did I call it? The production design of everything. And we talked about it at length about the towns and everything, and for the pluses and the minuses, in that particular story. I don't think I mentioned, and I definitely wanted to bring it up, is I love the look of the Martian design of their it's not even their town.
Right.
Like, we don't actually see a Martian city.
No.
We see effectively parks and patios that supposedly lead to Martian cities.
Yes.
That, odd triangular platform with the geometric shapes and everything. my God, I would love to go and play on that.
Yes, no.
I'm sure that is something that was just built. I think they filmed things in Malta. It was probably built. It's probably just fiberglass and chicken wire, and none of it exists anymore.
Right.
But I think that looks so fantastic. And the final one we see is they're sort of floating in a small pond fed by a canal. So it's a blue water, and there's water trickling through the center of it and everything. Love it. I don't know who came up with that. I think that's brilliant. It's like it's something you can recognize because of the geometric shapes and everything, but it's alien enough to make you feel like you're not on Earth. You're not just on some park in Chicago or something.
Well,
I think it's brilliant. I love that look.
And it fits with the aesthetic of what the Martian was talking about, that whole coexist with your environment. Don't create, don't destroy. So it looks like something where they've added to an environment without taking away from it. It looks like they built that park, or whatever you want to call it, in an existing place that was already there. They just added the geometric shapes and the components, and maybe routed some of the water for the effect. But they didn't really alter the terrain. They enhanced it with what they did. Whereas we would have clear-cutted everything and put in a highway. They made use of the space. And even since we didn't get this to the end, when we saw the Martians at the beginning, and they're living in natural cave systems that are there. They just make them their living spaces, and that whole notion, you live with your environment, you don't destroy it and remake it, kind of thing. It carries through that theme. I liked it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, very much. Now, I've always it's always stuck with me from the very first time I remember watching this. The plaza, I guess you would call it,
Sure.
the Martian Plaza. I just really always appreciated the look and the design of that, and like that it plays such a strong role in the opening credits of the film, in several times during the storytelling. And so, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I brought that up because I've been meaning to mention it.
Yeah, no, we hadn't gotten into the Martian parts because we were so busy being preoccupied with the human parts. But no, yeah, great aesthetic. It needed a lot more work. And I don't know if that's Ray's fault or the filmmaker's fault.
I think it's probably a combination, not necessarily, I wouldn't say fault of Bradbury. I think it's just the fault of, as I was saying before, that in the end it was several short stories kind of shoehorned together.
Yeah.
And then additional stories written in order to connect them and then end some story, but there's a sort of lack of cohesion in doing so.
Absolutely. Yeah, no.
And that definitely carries through into the screenplay for this.
Yeah.
Would you want to see this story, and maybe we mentioned it in the first time we started talking about this, and now that you've seen the whole thing through, would you want to see this redone with a kind of modern sensibilities, a modern budget, real money, put in it, something on, a streaming service, Netflix, Hulu, something to try and retell this story using effectively the same script, at least through the main stories? Maybe not the third part.
Yeah, no.
Maybe that's the one that needs some work.
I feel some rewrite, but I mean, as we've hit on, the story isn't any less relevant then as it is now. Argument could be made even more so right now, where this would be meaningful, especially with I would like to be more excited that there is buzz around the conversation of going to Mars anyway. I wish it wasn't tied to the stuff that is actually happening in the world right now. But all that said, there is room to have a Martian Chronicles revisited, but it would need some obvious rewrites in there. And it might have to actually be longer form.
I think a little bit longer form. I definitely think
a limited
another
series would do
I
this.
definitely think another shot at an ending. I think there are bits and pieces of this third part that could be incorporated.
Oh yeah.
Into an ending, but there are other aspects that I definitely think could be left. The Hathaway story could definitely be dropped entirely.
Or like we're talking about, rewrite it. If you want to incorporate a component of this, don't make them androids, make them Martians. There's room to do it. It seems, I mean, it's obvious to you and I, we expected that to be the case, and we're ruined when it wasn't. So, yeah, no, you could tweak some stuff. There's some opportunity here if you did it in a limited series kind of thing. You could build on these, have other versions of short stories that actually get incorporated in order to tell a bigger tale, because that's part of what we need by the time we get to the end. If you're to assume that we have to abandon Earth outright and restart anew and even find a new path to just being and do it on Mars, give me a sense that there's something to do it with, that there's a population there that warrants that. And seriously, stop doing the single savior kind of thing. Whatever gets learned needs to be learned by the population. If you have beings like Martians that are telepathic and have done all of this up to this point, there should be no stretch in broadcasting this sense of this is how we lived to the population of Mars.
I would almost like to see in a new version of this have it end with effectively Martians overlooking, what's left of humanity as they try to struggle and pull themselves together and everything, and have several Martians that are kind of conferring with each other and wondering out loud, what's going to happen, and having one, suggest we'll help them, whether they'll know it or not, we'll teach them, and make it sound like they're almost fulfilling something that they feel is necessary, whether it be a prophecy or just a, our race is gone, but there's no reason for Mars to be empty. Suggest that they are going to even quietly and in the background influence and teach the survivors those lessons.
I need something bigger though, and I'm gonna throw in a little nugget because I think it's actually part of what's inherently wrong. Our media has been feeding it to us over and over. Every story that's been written has been over and over. There's always the hero. The hero complex runs rampant through human stories. It's not an American thing. This is just throughout time. The key to survival is never going to be a hero. It's a together thing. And that's part of what I think that Martian was imparting to him is we did this together. We did this with our environment. This is how we chose to live for living. We chose that was the goal. Not there's no thing to obtain. No wealth. No nothing. It's about being in a community, in our environment. There needs to be a whole lot more of that. And I would love to see a version of this story that really dug in on that concept. showing us at our worst, showing us ruining ourselves, because we are. But show us the way out, and show it to more than just one person. Show it to the whole. Figure it out. And with the way that the Martians even worked in this world, I think there's room for that. You could even have some fun with that. Imagine them influencing the population that moves to Mars through their dreams. And telling those stories. I mean, you've got telepathy in this. Instead of projecting an environment, making people live in it and then kill them, and you look and do that first. Do that as this is their defense mechanism to saving their world. And when that does not take, you make the world that you want. Let them live their life, their actual philosophy. Okay, we can't get rid of the humans. We now have to cohabitate with the humans. And how do we get them where we need? Let's influence them. And how could we do that without it looking like we told you so? Make it their idea. And
Exactly.
You can have all sorts of crazy episodes just around the kind of dream sequences that people would have to have in order to reach that epiphany that we're all in this together, and that's the only way through. I like it. I want to write
it. Get on it.
Yeah, if only I had any skill at writing.
Well, then I guess that ends the Martian Chronicles. It has been a hell of a journey.
It has.
I've really enjoyed it. Even this story, at least talking about it, it's been a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, because even in some of our hatred, it still fuels the hope, the fantasy, and that's what I was hoping for out of this. Why I even said after our last round of action-oriented stuff, I wanted something intellectual, something to sink my teeth into. And pros and cons, it did that.
Yeah, excellent. I'm so glad that you, for the most part, enjoyed it.
No, I do. This was a letdown, but it's still part of the journey. And
Absolutely.
I can't believe I used journey that way.
Well, our next subject, we're going to watch just The Martian. Dropping the Chronicles.
Yep.
This one from 2015. I mentioned to Tom when we decided on what we were going to talk about. I can't believe it has been 10 years since this film has come out already.
Yeah, which means it's been that long since I've watched it.
It has been just shy of that since I watched it. I think I saw it probably when it first came to like home video. I didn't see it in the theaters. I probably watched it on DVD. So maybe late 2015 or 2016.
Yeah, I didn't see in theater, but I saw it first chance on streaming when it became available. So,
yeah. And depending on the timeline and what was going on in my life and everything, it could have been 2017. It might have taken me a while to actually finally get around to it, but
either way, it's been a while since we've actually watched this one all the way through. So
yes, it should be a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I guess that will do it.
Yes.
Thanks everyone for listening to this episode of the Time Shifters podcast. If you have any feedback or thoughts on anything we discussed on this episode, or the last three, because they're
all tied together.
They're all tied together, and we have had a lot of stuff, and there's been a lot to talk about. Please send us an email or comment on any of our social media posts. Follow the link in the show notes or visit timeshifterspodcast.com. And again, that email address is timeshifterspodcast@gmail.com.
Good. If you can spare some time and wherever you are listening to the show allows you to leave a rating or a review, please do so. That does help more people find the show.
If you can spare some change, please visit kofi.com/TSPOE podcasts and donate it. This will help with the costs of web hosting and episode productions. Our episodes will always be free, but any help you can offer is greatly appreciated.
And if you just want something to hold in your hand, to value, then please consider shopping at TeePublic by using our affiliate link for at least as long as it lasts. Again, just follow the link in the show notes or on the website. It won't cost you any extra, and anything and everything you purchase will help us as well as support many independent artists.
Yes, apparently TeePublic is doing away with the affiliate program. We will continue to have a TeePublic store, but we also have a little spin-off that TeePublic is doing called Dashery. A lot of the same products will be available there. That is going to do it for this episode. We'll talk to everyone next time. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Because it bears repeating.
Secret. There is no secret. Anyone with eyes can see the way to live.
How?
By watching life, observing nature and cooperating with it. Making common cause with the process of existence.
How?
By living life for itself, don't you see? Deriving pleasure from the gift of pure being.
Life is its own answer. Accept it and enjoy it day by day. Live as well as possible. Expect no more. Destroy nothing. Humble nothing. Look for fault in nothing. Leave unsullied and untouched all that is beautiful.